This is Film Festival Hacks, the podcast with Film Fest insights from both sides of the badge. Alex Ferrari is the creator of IndieFilmHustle.com and a veteran filmmaker with more than 600 festival credits. Chris Holland from FilmFestivalSecrets.com has worked behind the scenes with more than 200 festivals and is the author of the filmmaking handbook, Film Festival Secrets. Together, they're pulling back the curtain on the film festival knowledge you need to succeed.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Film Festival Hacks with your hosts, Alex Ferrari.
And I am Chris Holland.
So, guys, this week we're going to talk about networking at film festivals, how powerful it is, and how you should take advantage of networking at film festivals to further not only your career, but your Rolodex. So, Chris, what do you have to say?
What I have to say is that there are two basic kinds of networking that you want to do, two basic kinds of people you're looking for. The first one is other filmmakers, folks who can help you in your career, either by giving you work or doing work for you. I think this is honestly what most filmmakers do the most of, because they're put into those situations by the festivals. They go to filmmaker-only parties. They end up at the shorts programs, if they're short filmmakers, with those other filmmakers. And those are the people they get to know, which is great. But there's another kind of networking to be done, and that is networking with your audience. And by audience, I mean two different things. I mean the actual end consumer of the film, and also the distributors and festival programmers and everybody else who's going to help you reach that audience. So once you have in mind what your strategy is going to be with those two different kinds of networking, we'll call them targets. I don't want this to sound too mercenary, but you do have to think about it that way at least once, so that you know what it is you want out of the process and what kinds of things you can do and say while networking to make it effective. I'm guessing you probably do a pretty decent job at networking, especially these days, huh?
Well, this is my technique on networking. First and foremost, when you're in a room with somebody and you walk up to them, if they are in a position, and you know that they're in a position to help you, you don't ask for anything. You can't ask for anything right up front because it's rude and people don't want to connect with you. You have to create a relationship. Even if it's a small 5-minute relationship, you've got to create a relationship to the point where at the end of this conversation, you either grab a card, get a card, or get information about them somehow so you can contact them later, but in a very organic way. You can't just walk up to them like, hey, how you doing? I hear that you're a distributor. I've got a film and blah, 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 blah. They get hit like that 20, 30 times a party, if not more. But when you just ask a really, a good question that just you're either asking a question or you're giving them some sort of value or you're validating them in one way, shape, or form, that's much more impressive and makes you stand out in a room. So it really helps you out a lot. I was in a room with Harvey Weinstein at Sundance once, and I just sat and watched how many people would just come up to him and just constantly, well, here's my movie, here's this, here's that. And Harvey was just, they were just pitching. And they're at a party, and there's a certain amount of that's expected, but it was just brutal because Harvey was the big whale in the room, if you will. And it was just kind of like nonstop, where people forget to just try to make relationships with people. And if you're that's with someone that can, at a, let's say, a higher level in the business, or that have connections or some sort of power that can help you. But when you're meeting somebody at your own level, it's just building a relationship. You're not just like, that's why I hate going to Hollywood networking or the Hollywood parties, because first words out of their mouth is like, what do you do? They don't care about you as a human being. They just want to know, what do you do? And if you're like, oh, you're a director, I'll continue talking to you because maybe you'll be able to help me out. But if you tell them you're a PA, they'll walk away. But they have no idea that I might be a PA right now, but my dad's Steven Spielberg. You see, that's the thing. When you go through that, and that's happened to me, you have no idea. So many times you talk to somebody at a party or at a festival or something like that, and you just human with them, and with no other reason than being human with somebody else, trying to actually make a connection over something, the movie you just watched, or the love of cinema, or craft beer or whatever your some sort of common theme is. And then later I find out that like, oh, my dad's, a billionaire and he loves to invest in movies, or, my buddy went to school, my buddy is that guy from that TV show or something like that. And we connect that way. And I've gotten so many different connections purely just by being human to someone. So that's the best advice I can give anybody in a film festival as far as networking is concerned, is try to be human first. As opposed to trying to be a pitch man, because nobody likes to be pitched to, nobody likes to be sold, and nobody wants to feel like you're just kind of like this energy sucker. And believe me, early in my career, I would walk up to producer like, oh, you're a producer. Can I get your card? I have this, I have that. And you just like, they smell you coming from a mile away, and those go nowhere. Only when you try to connect at a human level, I think, in my experience, you can go a lot farther than just trying to sell.
Yeah. I think, what do you do is a valid question, but it needs to be put more artfully than that.
Yes.
And the most powerful questions, when I think about them and reduce them to their most basic form, is kind of like, why are you here? Right? Like what brings you to this place and this point in time? And oftentimes people will answer the question, what do you do, when in the process of doing that? And if they don't, then segueing to what do you do is legitimate, as long as the conversation's going well and you aren't being a jerk. And the third question that I like to ask, even if it's only asking it to myself, is how can I help you? Right? What is it that you're looking for, and who do I know? What can I do to help you get to where you're going? Even if I don't know who you are or think that you might be able to help me, like, that's the question I'm always asking myself, is how can I help this person standing right in front of me? If this same person, let's say a filmmaker, were to email me that's a totally separate situation. I might not be willing to help, because I get email solicitations, probably 3 or 4 a day at least. People who just want help for free, and that's great. Sometimes I help them, sometimes I don't. But when somebody's standing right in front of me, that's what I'm there for. I'm there to be helpful and make connections. So I think those are 3 quick ways, 3 hacks in the networking world that will really help you make those connections.
I mean, I'll tell you a perfect story. I was at Sundance, and my buddy and I, we kind of ran the street as far as all the parties were concerned, because we went in about a day or two early before the festival opened, and made friends with all the bouncers, made friends with all the party planners. We went in and networked. So when the parties started showing up, we just show up to the front door and they're like, "Hey, what's up, Alex? Come on in." And we did that for a couple years, to the point where like every other year we'd go, and then everybody was like, "Oh, it's them again, Alex." And okay, let's come on in. So we already started building relationships up. And one year, it's like, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning at Sundance on the main street, and there's a party going on in a bar. And I had walked out to make a phone call, and when I come back in, I'm walking back in, I see this guy standing outside, and the bouncer won't let him in. And I look at him, I'm like, oh my God, that guy won Project Greenlight.
Nice.
and I'm like, dude, do you know who this is? He goes, no, I don't know. I'm like, let this man in. What's wrong with you? Him and his wife are freezing out there. And and he's like, oh, they're friends of yours, Alex? Sure, go right on. So you see how insane that situation is. He might have won Sundance, had connections with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Harvey Weinstein, but at that moment in time, he couldn't get into that party. But for whatever reason, I was there and I was able to get him into the party. We hung out for the night, drank a bunch. He connected me to some people, later on, and and I made friends with other people and things like that. But that wouldn't have happened unless I wasn't, honestly, I was just like, I didn't do it for the sake of like, oh, I'm going to make connections, because he just won Project Greenlight. He's not like an Oscar winner. So, and even then I was just trying to connect with them as a human. I'm like, they're freezing. It's freezing. Him and his wife are just trying to get it. Would you just let these people in?
Watch out, Alex. You're going to get a reputation as a nice person.
Oh man, stop it. So anyway, that was my quick little story about networking, and sometimes just trying to be as humanly possible. But I like those 3 hacks that you gave, Chris, because you always have to ask at the end or somewhere in that conversation, what can I do for you? How can I help you? as opposed to gimme. So what are we going to talk about in the next episode, Chris?
Next time we're going to get technical. We're going to talk about projection formats that festivals typically ask for.
Excellent. That's my arena. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
That's it for another episode of Film Festival Hacks. To learn more about guiding your film to success on the festival circuit, visit filmfestivalhacks.com.